Watchmen Brief. We are live at AmFest 2025. I'm R.C. Williams.
And I'm Norman.
So exciting guests on the show today. Joe Allen and Jan Edwards will join us shortly for a conversation on the AI moratorium and the challenges with AI in education. We are here and blessed with incredible sponsors. Fun Spot America. Now, here's the deal. You go to Central Florida and you go to Disney. Stop doing that. Don't do that. That's bad. That's demonic. Don't go there. Our friends, the Aries at Fun Spot America, have one of the best amusement parks in the country. So they've got one in Orlando. They've also got one south in Kissimmee near Disney. And they also have one in Atlanta. You need to go visit our friends. It's fun-spot.com. We're also sponsored by Stonebreaker Construction. So if you've never been to Southwest Florida, Naples, Marco Island, just go look them up and look at some of the houses. So our friends at Stonebreaker Construction actually build those incredible houses and their boat decks and everything like that. But they're also strong believers. You can learn more about them at stonebreakerbuilders.com. But Juliana and I both encourage you, with the work that they do down in Southwest Florida, to go to Worship on the Rock. Worship on the Rock is an incredible event. Happens March 7th, 2026. If you just search for Worship on the Rock, you'll find more information there. So, Juliana, now that that's out of the way, to the thousands and thousands of our new friends watching all over the country, let's welcome them to AmFest. Why?
Hey.
Wow. You know, this is amazing. If we had this conversation 4 months ago, guys, and welcome to the show, Jan Edwards of Paving the Way.
Thank you.
The one and only Joe Allen, joebot.xyz.
That's right.
Oh, yes. Without a script. Guys, welcome. So,
Thank you.
this is amazing. You know, I think if we were having this conversation back in August, we'd say, yeah, I'm going to go to AmFest, or yeah, I may get there. But after September 10th, a lot of things changed. So before we jump in, let's do this. Jan, let's do quick introductions, both you and Joe, and then just talk a little bit about the impact of what happened to Charlie on each. Jan, you first.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for inviting me to be on this show. It's just God. It's just God. That's all I got to say. It's God. So my name's Jan Edwards, and I run an organization called Paving the Way Foundation. And we do, you got to listen to the whole sentence. We do human trafficking awareness and prevention education specifically for kids. We've been doing this for 9.5 years, 10 year, next year is our 10th year anniversary. We've educated over 45,000 kids and parents in person in small groups. So we know a little bit about what's happening online to our children and our families. And, you know, the impact, I'm going to get a little teary-eyed. I'm going to make a weird analogy, but you'll get it. I didn't understand when the entire country mourned President Kennedy's assassination. And if you remember all the videos, people are everywhere sobbing. And I'm like, yes, it was sad, but I didn't get the emotional connection they had with him because he was the hope for the future. He was what people were praying for. Charlie was very similar. And I cried all day. Yeah. I cried the next day. God and I had many conversations. And the thing that God brought me to that night was Mark 4, about when your enemies come after you, rejoice.
Amen.
And I remember sitting there holding my Bible going, really? Really? That's what you want me to do? Okay, you know, you got to be obedient to God. So that's what I was. So the impact for me personally was deep sorrow and like a loss of a future. And to our nation, what it did was rise up the saints.
Amen.
It rose up the saints. And that's really what I think, you know, Charlie's impact was incredible while he was here. And we still see it even more so now. I mean, there's 34,000 people at this event. It wasn't like that before. So you've got more and more people waking up to what's happening on the planet. You've got more and more people waking up what's happening to our children. And you have more people waking up to the love of God and that Jesus is real.
Amen. Thank you for that, Jan. Joe, welcome again, my friend. So a little bit about you for our audience that does not know you and your thoughts on what happened with Charlie.
Yeah, I'm Joe Allen, anti-tech propagandist, editor for Bannon's War Room, all things transhumanism and technology. Been a writer since I was a wee sprout. People have accused me of being a journalist, They've accused me of being an AI expert.
Uh-huh.
I've even been accused of being a theologian, but I am just a writer. And at the moment, instead of writing, I'm uploading myself right now, uploading myself to the Rumble cloud where I'll live in digital immortality forever until the solar flare. You know, the day that Charlie
You have to
Kirk,
wait that long?
I hope not. The day that Charlie Kirk was killed, I was in DC. I was walking around without my phone. And when I came back to studio, Steve Bannon and Jack Posobiec were there with our producer. And there's not really a way to describe the mood in the room.
Mm-hmm.
It's very solemn, very apprehensive. They went ahead with the show live, covering what little bits of information there was to talk about and remembering Charlie Kirk. I didn't know Charlie really well at all. He'd invited me onto a show. I remember that he invited me onto a show to talk about artificial intelligence transhumanism at a time when nobody else would take it seriously.
Yeah.
And I'll remember that forever. And the few times that I met him, he was quite kind. But really, it's the wider cultural phenomenon of, on the one hand, bloodlust, the ancient spiritual deformity that is bloodlust, and the increase in bloodlust in the American culture. American culture has always been a little bit on that bent, but we're really there now. I think at this point, if people didn't take the prospect of violence seriously, they're sleeping.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. You know, for us, we were actually getting ready to tape our TV show, Culture Crossroads, that we do. Literally, our hit time was 2 p.m. And right before we went on, I'm getting ready to close my computer to go to the studio area, and I see the pop-up, Charlie Kirk shot at Utah Valley University. And I'm like, whoa. And we sat and we waited and we debated. We're like, do we record? We just decided.
No,
We didn't know what to do at that point. And watching it, right, and looking at it happen, the first thing that ran through my head is he's dead before he hit the ground. And it's sad to say that, but it's like, wow, I don't think they have any idea what they just did
No.
with him.
so I actually want to start off by when they were talking about the moratorium, right? I know my friend Jan was like all freaking out about the fact that they wanted to take away the state's rights legal for the law, take care of all the technology stuff. But trafficking, Jan was all freaked out about it. And I was like, can you please explain to me why you're so upset about what they're pro grid?
Right. So this is what we teach our kids. All right. And I really want to teach it to our parents too. All they need, and I do mean they, right? The dark web, all they need is one picture and 4 seconds of your voice to make a you out in the dark web to do and say and be anything that you're actually not. Now, our kids are using this technology to document their life, to Joe's point. Okay? And not being able to protect our children and their sovereignty and their likeness and their voice, and in particular their future, is a problem for me. Now, back in 1996, I'm going to circle this around, I promise. Back in 1996, we passed a bill, okay, that gives all these companies free will. The Earn It Act. We're trying to take down those 16 words that protect social media. There are hundreds of thousands of kids that are being impacted every single day on this. I'm going to give you 2 stats. The average number of DMs and inappropriate pictures, unsolicited, that our children get on a daily basis is 267 a day. A day. Our brains can't handle that. We can't expect our kids to. Now you put AI on top of that. You've got AI bots interacting with our children. You've got AI chat bots telling our children to kill themselves. And you want to just let the free reign go. I feel like I'm Sarah Connor in the Terminator a lot. I do. And there are now currently, I think the number is up to 245. Joe, you may correct me. There's 245 apps on our phones that can take that picture, those 4 seconds, and I can now create an AI human being of you. I can take a picture of you fully clothed and have you be naked, and then I can send it to you via DM. Now, remember, I'm 12 or 13, happens with adults too, and say, I've got naked pictures of you, send me more, or send me money, or I will blast this out to your entire social media platform.
Yep.
As a 13-year-old, that's mortifying, and this is why our children are harming themselves, because they see no way out of something that they didn't do personally, right? When we get scared, our prefrontal cortex, our decision-making part of our brain, goes away, and the amygdala takes over. So they're in full-blown panic mode. They don't know what to do. They're not going to tell their parents, here's a naked picture of me, and it was all AI generated. That's why I have a problem with it.
So thank you, Jan. Joe, I want to kind of continue on this. So we come to this conversation having done a number in the series of the AI in Education Symposium in the state of Florida. So Watchmen Actions partner with Florida Citizens Alliance. Both of you have been on panels at these events. So understanding what Jan just said, Joe, you were really at the heart of the battle to stop the AI moratorium component in the Big Beautiful Bill. You got Marsha Blackburn to move. A lot of us worked on that. They tried to sneak it into the NDAA. We were able to stomp it out there. But given what Jan just said, Joe, how in the world does President Trump then decide it's a good idea to sign an executive order to basically move the AI moratorium forward? What's going on?
Yeah, the executive order on artificial intelligence signed last week is certainly softer than the moratorium language in the Big Beautiful Bill, and also softer than what was rumored to be coming NDAA. There are a lot of concessions, but I don't think it's been called a win for our side. I disagree. It's at best something like a truce for now, at least for some. For me, I think that the most important thing is to keep attention on the people who are creating and deploying these technologies and never let up. They're not just going to go away.
Right.
And even if you had laws across the books to limit this aspect of artificial intelligence, for instance, age gating, or to expose the dangers, the transparency laws in California and in New York, these are all good things. These are all ways of throwing sand into the gears of the machine, but none of them are going to be sufficient to stop it. I think it's something that people have to think about as a lifetime endeavor. These technologies are most likely not going away.
Right.
And so we're always going to be fighting against the worst aspects of them. On the note of being able to voice clone or deep fake people, anyone, whether it's a famous person, a rando, or a child, the consequences are very, very serious. About 2 weeks ago, I interviewed a group of parents who had lost their children to suicide, and it was various causes. So in one case, it was because they had basically gone into full-blown sort of social media psychosis. In another, it was their ease of access to drugs via the dark web. But in one, it was a young girl, the parent of a young girl who, this exact thing had happened. She had been cloned, and it was discovered that her image was being used for lewd pictures online, and it sent her into a crisis. So these are extreme situations. The cases of, say, Adam Rain or Sewell Garcia, children who have killed themselves at the prompting of artificial intelligence, these are extreme cases, but they're definitely indications of a much wider phenomenon. Back to the moratorium, I think that what you see quite clearly are that these tech companies are pouring millions, at this point, well over $100 million being pushed to support candidates who are going to run cover for these companies.
Right.
They were, by and large, behind David Sachs' influence to push forward the original moratorium and then the softer language of the EO. These guys are going to be relentless, and they have to be named. The primary people pushing, for instance, the Leading the Future PAC, would be Mark Andreessen of A16Z, Greg Brockman, president of OpenAI, Joe Lonsdale of Palantir. These are people who, whatever their intentions, you can project malice, you can project naivety, whatever it may be, they do not want states to have the right to determine their own futures. Their justification is that if you have a patchwork of state laws, that it will get in the way of the American AI agenda. I get that from a military standpoint.
Right.
I can get that from an economic standpoint. But what we're talking about doesn't have anything to do with that. What we're talking about is AI companies developing and deploying algorithmic parasites across the population and with absolutely no accountability for it, and taking no responsibility for the extreme cases and taking no responsibility for the milder cases of people just becoming atrophied morons who are dependent on algorithms. So I think that understanding that they aren't apparently very interested in the edge cases or the wider phenomenon, the downsides, has to be a starting point. And from there, you figure out what tools you have to fight with. State laws are imperfect. Federal laws are imperfect. Standards are imperfect.
Right.
But these are tools that you can use to shield the most vulnerable from the worst effects of these. And even the reckless ones, even ones like the woke AI laws. I don't want woke AI, right? I don't want based AI. I don't want any AI. But even in those cases, it represents groups of people in a region who say, this is what we want for our future.
Right.
And I think that has to be supported as decentralized and locally as possible.
So, guys, it's interesting to me. Yeah, a round of applause for that.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
You know what's interesting to me, Joe, on that? You know, we talk about states' rights, and we're on that side of it too. We're like, listen, on its face, violation of the 10th Amendment. Here's what stuck with me and helped me to really root out what these people want to do. There are states that have put together amazing AI legislation to keep people safe. And as a native Californian, I can't stand Gavin Newsom, but I give credit where it's due. They have some of the best AI laws on the books.
Yes, they do.
To me, it would seem from a leadership perspective that it would have been super easy for President Trump and the administration to go to all the leaders in the states and say, listen, we got to solve this problem. You guys are already doing it. Let's put together the best of what everyone's come up with and come up with something that everybody can get on board with. He would have been able to get all the states locked in with a say, and we would actually have comprehensive legislation or a path towards it. And that stuck with me because I said, well, if I didn't know any better, it doesn't sound like you actually want to solve the problem.
Scroll the problem.
Correct. Dan, what do you think?
So I actually wrote a letter to President Trump about this. Yeah. And apparently it was handed to him personally yesterday.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah, yesterday morning. And y'all know me. You know I'm an entrepreneur. You know I'm an innovator. I do cutting edge education. Nobody else in the country is doing what we do. We're always looking for new ways to tackle this conversation with our children. I love innovation. I like technology. Technology is very, very useful. And it feels like it's an either or in these people's minds.
Right.
Versus, hang on a second, let's actually pause, take a look. Where can we safely put guardrails in for our children such that we can still innovate, we can still have amazing things in technology and defense, right? I know. Look, I know. We can still do some of this stuff and keep it safe and hold these companies accountable for the impact they're having on our children. When you said what you said, was right there for me. Design It For Us did a great research on this topic. 72% of our kids have an AI companion.
Yep.
They don't want to talk to each other anymore. They want to, and the thing about AI that I don't think has been brought to anyone's attention in the current administration is it never argues with you. RC, tell me more. Juliana, don't you want to do this instead? How about we do this? Right? It's always luring you in to do more and then says, you're absolutely right, Joe. You're right. We should. It always
Maybe I should get an AI companion.
But what that's doing to our children, it is blurring the lines, and they're not able to have discourse.
And
So
this-
if you say something that upsets me, I'm going to go walk away and dish you out of my life versus, hang on a second, Joe, tell me more. Tell me why you're saying that. I want to understand. And then you have this great discourse. So you understand, I understand, and we actually walk away with a better solution.
Yeah, I think that this really highlights the limits of states. In a place like China, where decisions are unilateral, you could imagine a world in which AI companions are just made illegal. I don't see that happening in the United States. So to me, it's just a net negative to have children bonding with machines.
It is.
It's the stuff of science fiction nightmares, and it's now a reality.
Yes.
And the effects, predictably, are incredibly lame, incredibly pathetic. So this can't be legislated away, and I think that the cultural element is going to be extremely important in that regard. It's going to be a matter probably of a wave, like kind of a lost generation that will pick. It's sort of like my generation with drugs, and the greatest generation with television. In every case, you see these technologies introduced, and you see the powers that be using them in manipulative and predatory ways. The AI is no different, and I think that we will see some of the worst effects go completely unaddressed by the state. But what we will have is personal choice and communal norms, and I'm fully confident that many or most subcultures within the United States and many across the world will adapt to this. They'll reject the worst elements of AI. Many of them will reject AI outright. But the use of the state, again, is to provide a sort of blast shield. It's a way to ensure that some of the absolute worst elements, for instance, child predation, are addressed.
Yes.
Right.
You wouldn't want a society in which basically having creeps who, prey on children, it was up to the parents or it was up to the society at large to take care of it, not unless they were armed and ready to do something about it, right?
Right.
You want to have laws on the book, and you want to be able to go to your sheriff and say, hey, this guy is menacing my playground. Well, in this case, you literally have, for instance, just in the case of Meta alone, 3.5 billion users. And out of them, they're claiming 1 billion users of Meta AI. And within their internal documents, in the protocols for safety, it was revealed by Reuters some month and a half ago that it would be allowable for the AI to speak to children as young as 8 or 12 about, let's just say, erotic matter.
Yes.
In a softened way. And this was something that was put in place as a policy. And so if you're worried about creepers in the playground, and I think parents have every reason to be,
Right.
What you're talking about here is something that's much more invisible and yet also much more pervasive, because it's something that your child might be spending days, weeks,
A lot of time.
a year
It's
bonding
a lot
with.
of time. And it doesn't even take a year, Joe.
No.
It takes such a short amount of time for that child to feel a connection. And just like, I don't know how many of you have used Chat GPT, the more you use it, the more it gets to know you.
Yep.
And the more it understands what you like and what you don't like and the tone that you want. And because a child's mind isn't fully developed until they're between 25 and 30,
Right.
they can't distinguish the difference. There are blurred lines that our children don't know. And while I agree, parents are the solution, if our kids don't understand, they're with this thing 24/7. We got to empower them. We've got to train them on what to look for and their value. They're a valued child of God.
Amen. So, Jan, where can people find your great work? Real quick as we wrap, and then Joe will come to you. Jan, please.
Absolutely. So people can find us at pavingthewayfoundation.com and .org. So pavingthewayfoundation.org. You can follow us on social at pavingw. And we have tons of great resources for parents. And we also have some resources over at your booth 76 over in Media Row. So for anybody that wants to grab some information, please come get it. And it's a great way to start to have a dialogue with your kiddos, because parents are the first line of defense.
Amen.
We empower them. We empower the kids. We save the world.
All right, Joe, where can people find you, buddy?
You can find my soul uploaded to the War Room channels wherever it is broadcast. Rumble, Real America's Voice, Apple. I will be there in perpetuity and probably reanimated by AI.
Yes.
You're very good.
You can also find my social media slave chain at JOEBOTXYZ or my website, joebot.xyz.
Oh, yeah. Well, you guys can find us too. We're not wrapped yet, but you can find all things us at watchmenaction.org. Guys, thank you so much.
I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you guys.
Thank you for being
so
on. We're
much.
going to bring our other guests up here in just a second. And while we're transitioning to those, I want to remind you guys, please support our friends at Fun Spot America. Good times in Central Florida. Don't go to Disney. Everybody hates them. And they're terrible. Terrible things happen at Disney. Don't go to Disney. Okay, go to Fun Spot. It's fun-spot.com. Our friends at Stonebreaker Construction make this happen. And our dear friends at Ignite TV Plus are ensuring that, one, we're getting great background footage
Love it.
while we're on the Rumble
We
stage.
need them.
And they've also set up the Watchmen Action booth. So, guys, thank you so much for doing
Yes,
that.
thank
Let's
you.
bring our friends from John Birch Society up. We're going to transition out here, guys.
Okay,
So
great.
We're going to have
Thank
you guys
you.
transition out. Thank
Great.
you. So, you know, it's funny to me, Juliana. People say, oh, I think that I hear the name John Birch Society and I think it's just, they're just crazy. And you know what my response is to people?
What?
All that stuff that you talk about, you know, with your friends about the deep state and what happened and communism. Do you know where that even came from? And they're like, no. I'm like, the John Birch Society. Where do you think it came from?
Amen.
Right? And we're excited actually to announce that we are officially part of the National Speakers Bureau for John Birch Society. We were just on with our dear friend Alex Newman
Yes.
on the New Americans Conversations That Matter this week. So we wanted to welcome our friends from the John Birch Society. Friends, introduce yourself and let's talk a little bit about what's going on with JBS.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, RC and Juliana. My name's Andrew Muller, and I am a contributor for the New American Magazine. I work with Alex Newman, also work for the John Birch Society. And yeah, we're just excited to be here at AmFest because we really do believe that America's worth saving. And a part of recognizing that America's worth saving is recognizing that we have enemies that are worth fighting. And you
Amen.
got to get the enemies right. And the ultimate enemy we're fighting is a globalist conspiracy to destroy our sovereignty, our faith, our family. And this is done through education. It's done through climate change. So we try to report on that and expose it for everyday Americans. And we've been doing it since 1958.
Amen.
And my name is Danielle Pitzak. I also society about that. And like Andrew said, our biggest weapon is education and letting people know what exactly is going on. A lot of Americans, especially even in the conservative movement, are not aware of what the insiders are doing
Right.
and the communist plot to take control of the globe. They really are trying to institutionalize a one world government or a new world order. And so what the John Birch Society, what was started as an organization to educate people on the going-ons of the communist plot. And so we can really introduce America First policy in our country. And so we can be a real country again and a nationalist country, because that's what matters.
You know, it is interesting to me when we talk with people, our presentation for Freedom Voices, which is John Birch Society Speakers Bureau, is the Great Gaslight. And we try to help people understand that they're actually being gaslit, the psychological operation, right? This thing that's happening. And, you know, here's what's actually happening to you. And here are all the ways that are doing it. And I think a lot of people think that you can go down a lot of rabbit holes when you start talking about how long this has been going on, or the families or groups who have been involved generationally of these things. But in my opinion, I think one of the great things that JBS and all the associated brands bring to the table is actual fact and resource on all of these things happening. So for you guys, and either one of you can take this question, JBS is re-energized, in my opinion. I think there's a re-energizing that's happening there. What's the most important thing that we're dealing with right now that people need to be aware of, one? And two, how is JBS helping people to tackle that?
So I would say there's a lot of angles to this. Obviously, I think educating people on for instance, what the internationalists are doing, specifically what the UN is doing, introducing Agenda 2030. But that's taking it more from a global perspective. But if we're talking about the country itself, I would say the number one issue, the one that young people especially are the most mobilized by, is immigration. And that's something I think that a lot of Americans are waking up to. This hasn't been a topic that really was, I would say, easily discussed in politics in America. And people weren't as impassioned about it other than within the last 5 to 10 years. And young people especially are seeing the effects of that and what it's doing to the job market, to the housing market. They can't, I'm 30 years old. I can't even afford a home yet.
Right.
I can't afford having a family yet. And that's not normal. That's not what the American people are supposed to experience, especially United States citizens. And so immigration, I think, is the main foundational elements that is causing that, and it's causing life in the United States to anyone to build a life in the United States really suffer. And that was one of the topics that ever since the beginning, the John Birch Society did speak on. And, we are for very limited, a limited approach to immigration. We want immigration reform. So that's more of a direct answer, a policy-oriented answer to your question. But I would say right now, young people are the most motivated by that topic. And what we are doing to motivate people, especially young people, to get involved and get started in chapters is to just continue educating them. We have multiple platforms right now that we are trying to revitalize that topic. I specifically work in the social media department. So what I try to do is I inform people through those platforms, and the most overly utilized platforms right now. That was underutilized in the past, but now we're going forward with a new direction, and we're going to educate people on those topics.
Oh, that's okay. Good. So what I would love for you to do right now is talk to the young people. Talk to the 15 to 30-year-olds and and what would you like to say to them as far as getting involved in their voice, how important it is for them to be involved in what's happening?
Yeah, well, I'll just say first things first is that your future depends on it. That's the first element of it. And, I cover a lot of the United Nations summits for the New American Magazine. And one of the quotes that was at the Summit of the Future in New York City, where they were planning their future for the UN, was they had a quote and they said, "We can't build a system for our grandchildren built by our grandparents." And what they meant by that is we have to tear down the prior structures. And this is what Joe Biden meant when he said, "Build back better."
Right.
This is what Barack Obama meant when he said, "We need to fundamentally transform our nation." And they're talking about taking the institutions that we've had in this country, the Constitution of the United States, the nuclear family, law enforcement, these ideas that are intertwined with Americanism and national sovereignty, and also our Christian heritage, and they want to replace them with a globalist, communist, technocratic system to control the next generation. So if you're a young person, you're here at AmFest, you obviously believe America's interesting and worth saving, and there's something special about it, something exceptional about it. And what we try to do with the JBS and the TNA is to give people the materials that actually we're working against a global conspiracy that doesn't just exist in the United States back to the 1800s or to our founding. It actually goes back to the Garden of Eden. When Satan came to Adam and Eve and they said, "You can be like God, knowing good and evil." Then the Tower of Babel, the first institution of globalized governance coming to manifest, the people saying, "We will be like God, make a tower and reach the heavens." Of course, God came, dispersed them, and created nations. This is the ideology we're fighting against. It's as old as human history. So what we try to do is give people the tools that this isn't just left versus right politics. This is good versus evil. It is a satanic battle that we're engaging in, and you can be involved in it at any level and make an impact. All you have to do is trust God, do the right thing, exercise responsibility and duty, and we can save our country.
I always say that there's only two sides. There's father's side and there's not father's side.
That's right.
Right? So what are we doing? They're talking about undoing all the biblical foundation of our country and saying we're going to have a new standard. No, there's only one standard. It's the biblical standard. Everything else should come from the Bible. If it's not from the Bible, forget about it. The youth has been all twisted in their minds because of the propaganda of what our government to them, saying to them, oh, it's okay that there's all these different genders. No, Father said there's two genders, right? That's what fathers say. We need to make sure that the young people are maintaining that biblical foundation because that's the only truth we have to stand on. If we don't have that truth to stand on, we have nothing to stand on. They can say the wind is going this way, the wind is going that way, and then we're going to do something different, and we're going to undo all the Father's laws. No.
That's right.
So, Andrew, if you could just take a minute and give people a rundown on the New American and what you guys do with the magazine and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So the publication's been around since the mid 1980s. It's a print magazine. We have a website as well, thenewamerican.com, and we produce podcasts, a monthly magazine, and the Insider Report. And these are tools that are critical because what we do with the New American is it's not just going to Fox News or to the AP and recycling news with a conservative twist. We're actually going to the World Economic Forum. We're going to the United Nations. We're going to these globalist events on the ground, interviewing people, figuring out what the threats are, getting them on the record. My colleague and I, Alex Newman, were actually just in Belém, Brazil for the COP30 UN Climate Summit just a couple of weeks ago. And we actually caught the globalists on tape. And by the way, there were 55,000 people there, hardly any American media. We were the only conservative, critical people there out of 55,000.
Wow.
And that's for the New American. And we're there, and the UN says they assess 28 risks. And this is nuclear war, this is Holocaust, this is famine. And they're like, what are the biggest global risks? Number 3, beating nuclear war, beating all these things, was misinformation and disinformation. And they said as a result of this information ecosystem being polluted by haters and by fake news, we have to control the internet. We have to control social media. We have to control the podcasters. We have to control the American media system because climate change, the UN agenda, Agenda 2030, will not sustain itself as long as free speech exists. So 20 governments actually signed a Declaration on Information Integrity. The UN also adopted the Global Digital Compact. And in this, they admit that they are partnering with Google. They're partnering with YouTube to push UN materials to the top.
Huh.
And we caught Melissa Fleming, the New American, caught her on tape. Alex did. I was filming it. Alex was asking the questions, and she said, we're partnering with Google, and they're rigging the internet. So the New American's the antidote to that. We're trying to be there in person, be the alternative voice, and not just ask silly questions or not just promulgate what everyone else is saying, but actually cut to the heart of this, that this is a globalist, anti-American organization that is funded by the United States. We pay 1/3 of the agenda, and there has to be a divorce. There has to be a divorce from the United States and the United Nations. So that's what the publication does. We also talk on education, vaccines. We interviewed Dr. Peter McCullough and Robert Malone before anybody else did during COVID, receiving millions of views. So the TNA has been ahead of the game all the time. And we're really today's news before anybody else has it.
So I just want to say for the record, how important what you just shared is and how few people are actually aware of how deep this rabbit hole goes. So it's worth you going back to the minute mark in this. If you're watching it on replay or whatever, you need to go back and listen to what Andrew just shared about COP30, because they're doing this all around you every single day. They're coming for you. Joe Allen was up in the last segment and he said, they're not going to stop coming for you.
That's right.
Okay, you're going to have to step up and stop them. So guys, as we kind of wind down here, again, we're excited for JBS generationally. I think that was something that was overdue and has been addressed. So how can young people, if they're here at AmFest and they're watching or they're out watching, because now we have tens of thousands of new friends because of our friends at Rumble, how can people find more information? How can they find a chapter? What do they need to do next? What are the marching orders?
Well, what they can do, first and foremost, go to jbs.org. Go to jbs.org, and you can find your coordinator. If you just go on the website, there's an option to find your coordinator, and you can put in your zip code, and it will direct you to a coordinator if there's there, which most of the time there is. And so once you contact them, they will get you informed about what chapters are active in your area. We are present at 50 states nationwide, and they are fairly active. I am an active chapter member where I live, and there are a lot of people that's completely mobilized and ready, absolutely hungry for younger people to get involved. And since we are becoming more active in social media, we're reaching out, we're going to events like this. A lot more younger people are contacting us, reaching out and getting more motivated to become a chapter member and actually influencing policy, even locally. And once it starts locally, obviously it will come nationally.
Right.
And we have plenty of educational materials that you can get on the website as well. We have plenty of books that are on sale. Even in our booth, for those that are listening right now, we have plenty of free books that we're giving out. But the books are very affordable on the website, and those are the primary educational materials that we give out to people and have them read on and know what we're about and also what we stand for.
Guys, thank you for joining us for this segment. We're excited about going on the road and spreading the good news about what JBS does and how it helps people and how we can win this battle. So thank you both for being on with us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
So guys, as we wrap up here, we will actually be back on the Rumble main stage tomorrow, 12 noon. So we got a twin bill for you, as they say in baseball. First part of the hour, Bill and Michael Federer will join us. And then in the second half of that hour, David and Tim Barton will be with us on the show. So 12 noon Eastern tomorrow. Please join us back on the Rumble main stage. Before we go, one of the stories we're working on for next week, J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, has signed the Assisted Suicide Act in the state of Illinois. That's state 13, and another state's getting ready to do this. As part of Rip from the Headlines, we've been covering the Assisted Suicide, or the MAID program from Canada since 2023. You have no idea what is coming for you and what they plan to do with that, because in Canada right now, if you're a young person and you're having a bad day, you can make a phone call, bypass your parents. They'll say, yeah, come on in, we'll throw you in the death pod and kill you because you're having a bad day. This is what's coming to the U.S. This is why JBS is important, right? We're working on this story now, due to be released next week, but we can't understate how important this is in the incremental creep of the enemy. So with that, we'll be back here at noon tomorrow. If you are here at AmFest, we're at booth 76 on Media Row. Come by and see us. Until next time, for Giuliano Armand, I'm R.C. Williams. Thank you for watching another edition of the Watchmen Brief.
Charlie was one of the few that really did it for the purpose of forwarding free speech, the actual idea of doing something great for America.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about today.